And welcome back, once again, to the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly, and back in full form this week, and ready to hit you with another edition of New Comics, bitches! So, obviously, first of all, thank you, of course, for all the well wishes from last week. Obviously, still very much hurting from that situation, but not over it by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly feeling a lot better. So, again, thank you to all of you who, said something nice about the little guy. And so let's jump in. So, of course, we're going to start with some comics from the previous week that I did not get around to reading until this past week. And then we'll go into some of the comics from this week because that's just the way it's going to be. Because this is going to be a two-part, two-night episode. So, part one tonight, and then part two will come tomorrow night. So I mean, we're potentially looking at some like Lawrence Arabia epic shit coming up this week, as far as the how long the whole thing will be. Yeah, let's jump into last week's comics. We'll start in kind of an unusual place, usually the place that I go to in the middle, but we kind of did the first part of it the previous week when I talked about the Marvel books that I picked up. So we're going to start with the Independents. So the first one we're going to start with is the Shadow #7. So this one, we have a new creative team. We have Victor Gischler, who I know from his work on X-Men, just, X-Men. And an artist I've never heard of named Jack Herbert. So Garth Ennis, I don't know if he's left the book or if he's just hiatusing or what, or if Aaron Campbell's going to come back at all. I don't know. But obviously the first 6-issue arc, pretty good start, I would say, to this. Not necessarily the direction that I felt like it should go, but like I said, that's the magic of comic books, is they can do things that surprise you and still be fun and cool. And for the most part, I thought it was pretty fun and pretty cool. So in this issue, we have Lamont Cranston and Miles Crofton, who is someone who I'd never seen before in the comics, but he very much exists in the original novels part of the Shadow universe. He is the one-eyed pilot of the Shadow's famous autogyro, which is like the helicopter / airplane kind of thing that he uses a lot. Well, his Crofton's piloting expertise is not for Lamont to fly around New York City. He's actually flying a kind of a cargo plane to Nepal, so that the Shadow can meet his former masters, because something has gone wrong for him. Basically, his powers, his abilities, the abilities to not only cloud men's minds, but the abilities to know what evil lurks in the hearts of men, failed him briefly. And he wants to know what that's all about. because there was a murder that he could have stopped, but he looked into the mugger who ended up killing his victim, and saw nothing. He saw just a blank face, a blank slate. There was just nothing there for him to read. So with his powers failing him, he feels that the best thing to do is to learn more about his abilities. And so we get to travel a little bit back to, certainly not to learn necessarily more about what he came from, but where he needs to go. Now, when he gets to Nepal, he finds himself basically all of his old masters are dead, have been massacred by a local crime lord calling himself Red Raja. And he has the abilities that the Shadow has, but also has, but is, he's evil, essentially. And that is one of the gripes that essentially that he had against his old masters, which is why he ordered the massacre of all of them, and participated in it as well. And so Lamont, while poking around there, meets Red Raja, and he knows that he's going to totally throw this guy for a real curveball, because he's someone else out there that's like him, that has the same abilities that he does. So this, of course, leads to kind of a battle royale, if you will, between his kind of Red Raja's foot soldiers, and also elements of the British Army, which have come to kind of clean up the opium trade there that is run by Red Raja, that Red Raja starts to kind of move them away from, but Lamont kind of puts them back on track. Now, of course, this ends up as, a mano-a-mano between the Shadow and Red Raja, once the rest of them have been done away with. And needless to say, the Shadow wins. This issue is very much a one-off, I think, to kind of introduce this new creative team on this. Here's the thing, is that there were some moments that I did enjoy in this book a lot. We got some really nice moments as far as kind of Shadow moments, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure that Victor Gischler really has the voice of the Shadow, because his internal monologue seems to be, because that's something that was not really present at all while Ennis was writing this. And the Shadow's kind of inner monologue seems to be very kind of casual, which is not the Shadow's internal voice at all, really. Sorry, it's getting chilly in here, so put on some cap. Anyway, so we have, like I said, he just doesn't seem to have his voice. He seems to speak in a very kind of, it's not nonchalant, but it seems very non-shadowy sometimes, and that kind of turned me off at certain points. There was a big moment where he's kind of thinking to himself, about his powers and what's going on in the situation that he is, and then think something like, and then it comes back to bite you in the ass. Well, that's not, because the Shadow, even in his internal monologue, speaks cryptically. It's not quite as obvious as what Gischler is writing here. The one the higher point for this new creative team is Jack Herbert. The art is really good. It's much better, to me, than Aaron Campbell's work on this book, because it was really difficult to establish which character was which when Campbell was drawing it, and now the characters are very clearly delineated. You definitely know who is who and where is where. Again, some of the like I said, it's really kind of the beats that hurt this, but I mean, I would dare say that Herbert's art style is a little bit more comic booky, which actually services this book a little bit better, I think. But I don't want it to go. I just don't want this, one of my very, very favorite characters to kind of go off the rails. So I'm hoping that Gischler will find a better rhythm for the character as he moves on. So this was 3.5 out of 5. It was good. Definitely not great. And it could use some work though. But it's kind of an auspicious start to Gischler's run. So I'm looking forward to where this goes from here. Moving along, we go to SHADOWMAN #1. So this is now, we're into Valiant, and their kind of, their rebooting of their characters. And we meet, it begins with I'm assuming the original SHADOWMAN fighting this, it's in New Orleans, and this is, years before, years in the past, and we see kind of this final battle between him and this character Dark, and it's Darque, obviously this is a very, SHADOWMAN is, very much in the realm of the supernatural, unlike, kind of the books that we've seen before, Exo Manowar, Harbinger, Archer and Armstrong, Bloodshot, those books, certainly not grounded in reality, but they're more of kind of like a science training, it's mental abilities, so on and so forth, and this is more of, it's kind of a straightforward, almost kind of a Doctor Strangey kind of character. And well, he's, the final battle between these two seems to end up with both of them dying. And this amulet is the SHADOWMAN gives to his girlfriend, his baby mama, whatever you want to call it. And then we skip forward into the future where we meet Jack Boniface, and he is a young man who is kind of, as he describes himself, a jack of all trades. He's worked a lot of different jobs. At present, he's working at a cultural museum in New Orleans, or outside of New Orleans. I don't know if it's in New Orleans proper, but probably in that same parish. But anyway, he's not a curator. He's just kind of, I'm not exactly sure what his function there is, to be quite honest. And that kind of is an indication of this book's of where it was going, because you don't really get a sense of any of who these characters are, because everything feels really rushed. Like it's just, here's like a handful of darts, and we're going to throw it at the dartboard and see which kind of plot points stick and which don't. So we have, he has this amulet that was given to him by his mother, who gave it to him just before she died. And he takes it off and he throws it into the sea, Top Gun style, because he's found out apparently that his birth parents, because he doesn't remember his mother really that much, and didn't know his father at all, apparently, and finds out that they are apparently not so very good people, that they were both criminals. And this does not sit well with him, which is why he takes off the amulet that his mother gave him, throws it away, and this, of course, alerts some powerful supernatural forces in the area, and so they charge after them, in which we do have this really, really creepy sequence in which we have this this creature that kind of forms itself from all of like these sacrificed dead bodies, kind of like disemboweled and hacked up, and there's like like mouths and teeth on like his shoulders and his leg. I mean, it's really creepy. It's really interesting. It's a really cool design for this really creepy bad guy who calls himself Mr. Twist. And so he because these two cops come after him to investigate this whatever this call that they got is. When the amulet is removed, this triggers, like I said, not only triggers that, but apparently some old allies that the original SHADOWMAN had. And at the very end, he is confronted by these two cops that came to investigate this whole thing. They find Mr. Twist, and they are turned into like into Mr. Twist's kind of acolytes, whatever you want to call them. His little private demons, and he tries to run away from them. He gets shot, collapses, and then all of a sudden, boom, here comes the makeup, here comes the kind of Scully face type of thing, here comes the weird kind of strange jumpsuit uniform that he gets, and boom, he's SHADOWMAN. And that's where the book leaves off. This is Justin Jordan, who I've never heard of before, and Patrick Zircher, who, for me, the most recent stuff, the other most recent stuff that I know of his work is he did the Scourge story arc for Brubaker's final run of Captain America just recently. And they kind of co-plotted it. Zircher does the art. This is absolutely my least favorite of all of the Valiant titles so far. I will not be picking this up in the future. Because, first of all, it was, for a Valiant title, this seemed really, really short. It felt like there was too much action at the beginning. That's kind of setting the. It sets kind of a mood, but it takes a long time to resolve this opening, and then get to where this character is now, and then it's like boom, 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 plot point, plot point, plot point, plot point, and then boom, he's SHADOWMAN. So it was like. It felt like it just was really rushed, and although Zircher's art is really nice, which I did think was kind of like the saving grace of this book, but other than that, this is not a book that I'll be following in the future. This is, which is kind of a bummer, because I've loved all the Valiant titles so far. So, I mean, you're bound to get a curveball every once in a while, so... And this was it. So I mean, if this is the worst that that Valiant puts out, I think we're in pretty good hands, because this was not a terrible book. There are some interesting ideas here, to be certain, but it just it just didn't work. Too brief, too rushed, and just it's trying to throw too much information, not enough character, and ultimately it's the characters that have to get you hooked. And this was just not a character for me that I cared at all about. I felt no attachment to him whatsoever, other than the fact that he's, kind of a bitter young man. And, I mean, of course, I mean, it's always nice to have more of a, more diversity in the comic book world. It's nice to have, a black, a black lead. But ultimately, this book just doesn't really work that well for me. So it was a 2.5 out of 5. It was average, but for money these days, average just doesn't quite cut it. Now I'm going to talk about Jennifer Blood, number 19. Here we have, with the fall, kind of the beginning of the fallout of the previous issue, where we have seen that Jennifer is definitely kind of going full-blown psycho. She's taken her, she's killed a whole bunch of people. She's taken her kids. They're on the run, and she continues to go full-blown psycho as she just starts, she goes into this convenience store. She's trying to find some food for the kids, and she is of course, very kind of cast aside by the kind of goth chick that works behind the counter, because she's trying to recommend some cereal, but it's Jennifer starts arguing that it's just full of all this sugar and all this stuff, and and then of course a cop comes in, recognizes her, and boom, kills the cop, and then boom, kills the girl, and then that cuts to a number of other convenience store, basically murder robberies. Is that she's just trying to get money. And of course this ends up with her killing every person at every convenience store. And of course this is all done with Detective Pruitt's gun. And we have Pruitt, of course, in the hospital again, after being shot by Jen in the previous issue, and kind of really setting off this whole kind of thing. And she's getting severely chewed out, being suspended pending an investigation by Internal Affairs because of, obviously, she brought, she dug up Andy, and brought the bag to the to Jennifer. So she's kind of losing it as well, but now she's got a new spirit kind of inhabiting her psyche, and that of course is the spirit of Andy. And he kind of uses her, she kind of uses him to, obviously using her own mind, but but in his voice, that she is maybe looking to not just to run, not just to head like for Mexico or whatever, but to start everything back up again, to find a husband, raise the kids, do the whole white picket fence thing, but still at the same time to go on her murder sprees. That's what she, that's what Pruitt sees her doing. And what we meet is an old kind of family acquaintance of Jennifer's when she was one of the Blutes, who's someone who helps get her and her kids, fake IDs, passports, so on and so forth. And he says that he initially says that he wants money. He kind of looks at the kids, and then he says, "Well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and do this gratis. Just get the fuck out, do whatever you need to do, take the kids with you, and don't ever look at me again." Now it's interesting because this guy, obviously with a connection to the rest of the Blute family, calls up one of their old hitmen, Ray Buick, and this character that they introduce, Herman, really looks like the character of Mike Ehrmantraut, played by Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad. And I'm pretty sure that was intentional, because apparently her next stop is New Mexico. And because Pruitt's trying to trying to think of where she will go next to try and set up a new life for herself. And, somewhere that is not too far away, because she has very limited funds to run with. Someplace, that has kind of a nice quiet neighborhood, somewhere she can blend in, not stand out too much. So this is, again, I like how Pruitt's mind works here. And like I said, I'm enjoying, seeing what's going on with Jennifer. But what I also enjoyed about this issue was the fact that, this Herman character he wants he wants Ray to track Jennifer down and to kill her, because he wants the kids to be safe, which I thought was a really interesting little beat there. But the book seems to be kind of, I think, to me it was like the insanity, which I get. Like, I get the fact that Jen has gone totally insane, but at the same time, there are some character beats that felt a little bit false. But there were more things that worked in this issue than didn't. So this was a solid 4 out of 5. It's a good issue. Felt was, just a really nice way for, kind of this not new chapter per se, but this next kind of starting point to go. So this will bring us to DC, again, still from last week. We're going to talk about what ultimately was what would have been my book of the week for last week, because it was slightly better than Deadpool. Deadpool is a really close second, but this book was better. But we're gonna move here first, because it's hard to kind of delineate these two books, because they're both dealing with the same thing. They're just going in kind of divergent directions. And the first one, of course, is Animal Man number 14. So we have, the book opens basically with Cliff and now Ellen and now Grandma are all kind of, they basically turned into they turned into the Hunters 3, or they're turning into the Hunters 3. And poor little Maxine, and Socks, they've got to escape. We have a different artist there for this kind of opening, and then we get into the future. Even though it says now, I mean, we know that, what's going on in the now is actually, as far as the universe is concerned, is the, the present with Maxine, but the future is what they call now. And there we have, of course, Buddy, along with Black Orchid, John Constantine, Steel, and Beast Boy, going to kind of the last refuge of Red. And, and there's, there are other allies there as well, kind of the last remaining vestiges of the Red. And suddenly Felix Faust brings a cadre of heroes and villains that have been ratified to attack them. And, all of them use their very considerable strength to dispatch these ratified heroes and villains. But Felix Faust basically says, look, I haven't come here to fight, I've come here to deliver a message. And that message is, to Buddy, we have Maxine. And she's at Arcane Castle. And, of course, he knows there's a trap. He knows that, everybody knows it's a trap. but if he's indeed got Maxine, who is, to grow to be the avatar of the Red, and of course it's his daughter, he's going to go save her, or he's going to do whatever he possibly can to save her. Of course, Constantine argues, what are we going to do if you guys all go off to say, about all these people who are still here, who are still being attacked by unmen and, the ratified, heroes and villains of the old world. And they all kind of really make the argument that it's time to go on the offensive. It's time to bring the fight to them. In which we do get back to, again, we come back in time to the present, and we see Socks and Maxine running from the Hunters 3, and Socks is basically, there's this kind of heartbreaking moment in which, Maxine, she's still a little girl. She's kind of, she's still very much almost a baby, really. And she doesn't know what to do, and she wants Socks to help her, but he really can't. The best thing that he can do is kind of advise her. And the advice that he gives to her is that she's probably going to have to kill her grandmother, her mother, and her brother, because if they've become the Hunters 3, then they may not be Cliff and Ellen and Grandma anymore. And there's this wonderful moment that that the other artist, draws, where kind of where Socks kind of just gives Maxine's hand a little lick, like this kind of beautiful sign of affection towards her, which I just thought was, it's such a small thing, but it's so great, because Lemire, obviously, he knows these characters, he knows character beats, and he writes, that's one beat that really stood out for me. It's actually like the one part of the book that stood out for me the most, because it was just this little moment, and it was so, because you understand, like, this kid is going through hell right now, and it's a really touching and moving moment. But then she goes into an area that is kind of already affected by the rot, as the membrane, as Socks explains it, starts to weaken, and comes across this other seemingly scared little boy, and when the little boy is asked for his name by Maxine, he says that it's William Arcane. And then we go to see exactly, because, and then we're back to the future, and we have our little cadre of heroes, and we have them kind of wondering, well, we haven't seen a whole lot of the bad guys yet, but then all of a sudden, their heads just start to scream when they, because they find out who indeed is actually, because there have been just a lot of converts to Arcane's cause, and one of them makes them kind of go ape, and it was just like, oh, okay, that's cool, I like that, I like where this is going, and just what a terrific issue. CPU's art keeps growing and growing on me. But I will say, other than that moment that I talked about before, my favorite part of this whole issue, and you've got to admit this, is when all of the ratified bad guys that they fight are all characters that Rob Liefeld was writing. Because you got Deathstroke, Grifter, and Hawk and Dove, and I was just like, oh, this is so awesome. That basically Lemire is trashing Liefeld on the pages of his book by killing and ripping apart his characters. And because, Lemire is, he's Snyder's buddy. and he's gonna have his back. And, you know, because Liefeld is just an overgrown infant, and he's a fucking idiot. He's not a good artist. He's really not a good writer. And it was like, oh, this is awesome. That made me just, like, gleefully happy when I saw that, when I recognized it. It's all the fucking Liefeld characters, and they're all getting their asses pounded, yeah! And some of them even say, you know, I mean, like, you know, Beast Boy, you know, and you know, Steel are all kind of saying, well, I never liked that guy anyway, or whatever. You know, it's just these great little moments, and just Steel stepping on, you know, Deathstroke's severed head, and it was just so awesome. So aside from that little absolute dig against Rob Liefeld, and totally deserved, this is still a really terrific issue of Animal Man, and a very, very solid 4.5 out of 5. The art transitions weren't very jarring, but they were a little jarring. So, but I can forgive that for the most part, but it did take me out of it a little bit at some points. So now we move on to what really would have been my book of the week for the previous week, and that is Swamp Thing number 14. Scott Snyder just continues this just epic quality to this book, and you know, we have this opening where, you know, we have Alec remembering this dream that he used to have. And, you know, this dream is, you know, kind of him as, you know, kind of this small, kind of, almost kind of this tiny swamp child. And he's going towards this mysterious house, and then we snap to the present, or the future, I should say, in Rot World. And, you know, he and Deadman and Poison Ivy and the Parliament are all under attack by more, you know, ratified heroes and villains, and, you know, just legions of unmen. And there's this, oh my god, moment where it's like the Parliament reaches out to him because, you know, they realize that indeed, you know, Alec has saved them all. And so they basically tell him, you will never find a more pure source of our energy than you will right now with us here, because we will give our energy to you, and we will make you even more powerful. And that's exactly what happens, because he grows to giant size and just squishes all of the little unmen. I mean, because he's probably, you know, 100-odd feet tall at this point in time, at least, because he has kind of the purity of being in kind of the last green place in Rot World, and with the power of the Parliament on his side. But of course, the question comes back once the threat has been dealt with: what has happened to Abby Arcane? Where is she? Even though, despite the fact they keep telling her that she's dead, of course we go back to, again, to the present, in which we see Abby has a dream of, you know, she remembers a dream of her own, and it again intersects with Alec's dream. So we are now introduced to the kind of a dual narrative here, as we knew that there would be, because obviously there has to be the back and forth, but we have kind of, you know, Alec's narrative, and we have Abby's very specific narrative, and a lot of internal monologue. As she goes, you know, we see that she has survived the plane crash, and she is making her way towards her hometown, where she grew up with Uncle Anton, that we were kind of introduced to in the Swamp Thing annual. And she is trying to do whatever she can to stop the spread of the rot. And in the meantime, we transition from time to time to the future and to the present, as as Alec learns that the further away that he gets, because he can stay there and he can defend, but he feels that despite the fact that they keep telling him that Abby is dead, he feels her presence in Rot World. And he intends to go save her and to destroy Arcane once and for all. And they have to, although there is a potential weapon that they can use, and where else would it be but Gotham City? But in order to get to Gotham City, they have to cross what the cover says is the River of Rot. And so we have, Abby kind of sneaking past the other villagers, and, imagining, wishing, hoping that somehow Alec is still with her. And it gives her the strength to kind of traverse this, to kind of get across this bridge that's like a several 100-foot drop if she makes a misstep. And, we have, once she reaches the other side, here comes Uncle Anton. And as Dead Man, who has decided to come with Alec, he obviously, he's been told by the Parliament that his power will grow weaker the further he gets away from the last green area. And they're trying to cross the river, and they are coming up against the unmen and the various agents of Rot and so on and so forth. And lo and behold, we have the reappearance in Rot World now, again, of William Arcane. And it was just, the whole issue was just, first of all, of course, it's so beautiful because, Yannick Paquette's art just fantastic. His very organic style in which he crafts the panels and the pages, and of course it just looks great. But Snyder just, again, he's not overwriting this, which he does have a tendency to do. I will gladly admit that, but at the same time, he is very much, he's writing just enough to keep us fully focused on the characters, to give the characters their own unique beats, to really understand the voices of these characters, and to still kind of reach in and give us the fucking creeps. Because Rot World is a really scary place, but still, has time for these tremendous moments where, like I said near the beginning, where Swampy does get really big, and you have just these, it's just like, oh, fuck, man, this book is so good. And so this was an absolute 5 out of 5. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a great book, great read, and it's like I'm just like clawing at the calendar, wanting the weeks to go by somewhat quickly so that I can get the next issue of these books, especially these 2 books, because they're just, the whole adventure into Rot World is so great and so unique. It's pretty close to the best thing that DC's doing right now, as far as any events are really concerned, but not quite the best. So now we're moving on to this week in comics. So we're going to start with Marvel. And we're going to start with another new #1 of Marvel Now. And that new #1 is All New X-Men #1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Stuart Immonen. I don't know how his last name is pronounced. Doesn't matter. Because basically what we have here is it opens up with Hank McCoy, Beastie. He seems to be going through another level of another mutation. And it seems to be very, very painful. And he's not quite sure what this is going to do to him. What is Hank's future here? But he's not quite so concerned right now with the future because he has to deal with the very unpleasant now, which is that Cyclops, Magic, Magneto, and of course Emma Frost are trotting around the globe finding new mutants and pulling them out of some seriously hot water. Now, admittedly, we would normally think this is a great thing, that Cyclops is trying to, because obviously we know that in the previous issue, in the last issue of Uncanny X-Men, that he has basically made his way out of his Ruby Quartz prison, and now he has to be in the world. He has to, do what he feels is now his calling, which is to become kind of a mutant revolutionary, and to free and to lead these new mutants that are popping up. And of course, our X-Men here in this book, which is made up of course, of Kitty, Storm, Iceman, and Beastie, they can understand what, of course, they're trying to do, but what they also know is that Cyclops will eventually force the mutant community to take sides, and it will create another civil war between mutants. And it will be worse than the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. It'll be worse than anything that they've ever come across before, because it will be, again, more heroes fighting heroes. And Hank believes that he has the solution to this, which is that he's going to take a little trip back in time. And we go to however many years ago, probably, I would say at least 10 or 15, maybe. It's never, of course, comic book years are like the, it's like the, it's kind of like the opposite of dog years. It's like, every, 10 years of, every like 5 years of comics is like 1 year. Because you can't have these people just naturally aging like they normally would, so let's just keep it simple, keep it clean, have them, age every, 1 year for like every 5 years. It's kind of the equation that I would make. Because, of course, characters that are really old, like Batman, Superman, what have you, they get rebooted every 20 years or so, and they get some new life, some new blood pumping in them. So anyway, and we see a young Hank, pre-Harry Hank, and a young Bobby, pre-Icy, and a young Scott Summers, pre-Revolutionary. Basically Hank and Bobby announce that they've just been attacked by a group of humans, and they're saying basically, fuck it, I'm not risking my neck for these humans anymore. I don't believe that this is necessarily the right thing to do. We're leaving the school, and here comes Beast, future Beast, and the reason he's come, and we do see, for the first time in a while, we see Jean Grey, just kind of in the background. And basically, Beast is telling them, look, I need you to come with me because the future is all sorts of fucked up, and I need you to help me prevent a mutant genocide. And that's where the book clicks off. And I gotta say, I am very trepidatious about this book as a whole, but this issue is pretty darn good, I would say. Imanen's art is terrific. Bendis obviously has a really solid grip on character voices. Obviously, this is something that, you know, him doing the various Avengers titles, he's learned to do very adeptly, by knowing characters' voices, working with multiple characters, having to divvy up their voices and give them very unique sensibilities. And while this could have definitely been stronger because it felt really brief, but it was the right kind of brief in the sense that it's not an overload of information, because we know ultimately where we are in the current, you know, Marvel universe, that, you know, the X-Men are kind of, you know, some of them have definitely been classified as villains now, and you know, it's something that has to be dealt with. Despite the best intentions that that Cyclops and Emma and Magneto and Magic may have. So it'll be nice to see a cool Scott Summers again. I think that's why I'm excited about this book. I'm hesitant and excited about it because it will be nice to see a Scott Summers that is still young, still idealistic, but not, you know, kind of in kind of pseudo-villain mode, which is what we're seeing him in the current Marvel Universe, and I'm not a fan of that at all. So I think that this is a good start to this book. I am curious and apprehensive to see where it's heading, but again, I did enjoy this read. So this was a 4 out of 5, a very solid 4 out of 5 for All New X-Men #1. So moving along, Amazing Spider-Man #697. Of course, counting down to the, well, this is, you know, we've got 3 more issues to go before we hit 700. Because, you know, obviously we have 698, 699, 0.1 issue is going to get snuck in there, and then we have 700 where everything is going to change. Where Dan Slott keeps tweeting that he's going to ruin all of our childhoods. And we'll eventually have the reveal at that, probably in, I'm assuming in issue 700, of who the new Spider-Man is going to be. But until then, we have to deal with our two geeks in the danger zone, which is Peter and Max. Of course, they're being chased by the 2 hobgoblins, the Phil Urich hobgoblin and the Roderick Kingsley hobgoblin, who are both kind of at war with each other as well. And they decide to kind of team up, to kind of truce it out, so that they can, you know, get these 2 geeks and get the Goblin Key so they can raid Norman Osborn's, you know, old, you know, bunker, his armory, if you will. So, but they also have another problem, and they have to, is that not only do they have to stay alive and to keep the Goblin Key away from them, but they also have to save Nora Winters, because Phil Hobgoblin eventually kind of wakes up to the fact that, yeah, so what? Who gives a shit if she's dead? You know, fuck her. That's the attitude that he essentially takes, and it's, you know, it seems like an attitude that he comes to pretty easily, but also fits his character. So we have Max and Peter. They get into the armory, and there's a really nice moment where Peter has to call Harry Osborn because they have 60 seconds to stop the Norman's kind of counter-intrusion device, which is basically that the whole place will self-destruct unless they give the proper keyword. And Harry Osborn knows what that keyword is, or at least has an inkling of what it is. And of course, the word is Strom, which of course is the first guy that that Norman really fucked over. So. And so we have a nice beat there with Harry, and then we're back to the present, in which they are just trying desperately to salvage whatever they can. The spider, the spider sense, and kind of, the whatever you want to call it, the anti-jam, or the super, the super spider sense overload machine that Tiberius Stone has created. Basically gets, he fixes it, and again we have Peter really suffering from the spider sense overload. But then we have this awesome moment in which he does harken back to his kind of spider fu training with Shang-Chi, in which he is able to kind of block kind of everything out and just kind of focus on the task at hand and really fight his way through the pain to block it off, to kind of block off his spider sense, if you will, and to basically get away safely and to save Nora. So of course, his decision to do this is that, his excuse, what he will use to draw them away from Max, is that he will pretend to be Spider-Man, like he did way back in Amazing Spider-Man number 12, as we're reminded of in this book, where he was unmasked by Doc Ock. And in the midst of this, of course, we, is Max, and, Ghost Critic did point this out, it's like, is Max really kind of an idiot? Is he one of those, of course, super book smart geniuses, but has no idea of what's really going on around him? It does kind of seem that way, but, once Peter gets out there and he's assembled a little spider glider and everything like that, and, he, kind of bursts out, and he's, using his web shooters to kind of help, to kind of, keep them off of Max so that Max can go and save Nora. And Max has this great new invention that his new app that he uses to save Nora just in the nick of time, as both of the hobgoblins are kind of beaten down, and Peter is able to make good his escape. And of course the truce is called off again. But Roderick has different things in mind for young Phil. Is that basically what I'm seeing here is that Roderick is kind of like almost like the taskmaster of kind of the Spider-Man villain set, that he's kind of franchised himself out and is kind of running these different groups. And of course we see the gold Octobot latch itself onto a cop car, and we have this really killer moment where it's like somebody has woken up, and this can only mean really, really bad things to come for Peter Parker. Now, these moments, these beats in this book. Now, Kevin Coley's art, again, is much more solid than it has been when Klaus Janson was doing it. We have, again, some, Slott and Gage really kind of injecting this, some strong impetus into this particular story arc. and you know, having some really cool moments, having the nice character beats, and you know, I think kind of by default we're forced. I think that we're all kind of forced to really care what's going on with Peter Parker, because of course we know that he's not going to be around. But is it going to be not around in the sense that he's just not going to be Spider-Man anymore? Or is it going to be not around in the sense that he might die? I don't think that Marvel would make that choice, especially after kind of the outcry that you know, seemed to happen when Ultimate Spider-Man, when Miles Morales became became Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe. Even though that worked very much to that title's benefit, by giving us a whole new character to care about. But you know, we know that this book is going to be going in a darker direction once we get to Superior Spider-Man. So, and it does remind me that yes, there is going to, you know, that an Alpha series is going to be written for Marvel, and it's going to be written by Josh Fialkoff, which is really the only reason that I would pick up that book. But I'm sure that with Fialkoff writing it, it will be something really worth reading. Because if anything, I think Fialkoff has proven himself to be one of the premier writers currently working in comics right now, and it can make even some of the more kind of B-list characters seem cool and interesting. I mean, if any of you did pick up or read that Masters of the Universe kind of Origin of Skeletor issue, probably not too many of you did. That was written by Fialkoff. It's a really strong issue where it's like, wow, I don't really care about He-Man, but I really, really enjoyed this issue. So anyway, but these next, you know, this issue plus the next 3 issues are obviously going to make or break Slott's future for the character of Spider-Man. And what exactly is coming next, it seems to obviously have something to do with Doc Ock, but it may have to do also with another major villain of Spidey's. So this was just, you know, there were some moments where I thought, okay, well, it's kind of dragging this issue, but mixing some of those nice beats along with some really killer moments, I think that we have a good basis to build on going forward. I'm you know, at the same, I think that the next issue is actually coming out this week, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know, but it's either this week or next week. But I'm totally looking forward to it. This was a 4 out of 5. I really did enjoy this read, and I think that Slott is definitely headed back in the right direction. And like I said, I certainly don't think that it hurt that Christos Gage was on this. So, now, moving on, Wolverine and the X-Men, number 20. So basically here we have, we are very much in an Angel-centric issue. Now Angel, again, because I did not read, well, I've read it, but I don't remember much of it, because I read it at the comic book store. I read, you know, kind of the Dark Angel saga of Uncanny X-Force, and I honestly don't really remember what happened to him. I know that Psylocke had to do something that kind of sort of killed him, but now he's got, you know, kind of this new power set. But basically it's Angel's turn, as we saw with All New X-Men number 1. That's kind of Angel's turn to go and find a new mutant. And we find this young girl who is basically a shark girl, or a were-shark. Again, you know, Aaron really knows how to bring the funny. But this issue, as basically what we have here, we have some explanation into what Angel's new power set is, and that, despite the fact that he is maybe stronger than he was before and has some new, decidedly interesting powers, that they are very finite, and if they run out, if his powers run out, then he could run out and potentially die, which is one of the things that he's dealing with Hank, which he keeps referring to as Dr. McCoy, because he doesn't have any memory of who he was before. Having the metal wings and, having kind of the Archangel wings, there's some nice, kind of, wordplay with some nice dialogue moments between Angel and this young woman, but of course they are attacked by Mystique, kind of decked out in her kind of more old school outfit, the more the white outfit as opposed to the sexy newer kind of black leather outfit or black latex, whatever, and Silver Samurai, and so, we kind of get, Mystique is, talking to the young girl, to our Wereshark, and while Silver Samurai is battling Angel, and Angel is using his new power set, this kind of weird, kind of almost angelic sword that he has that has apparently some pretty significant power, it seems to be going well for a few moments with Mystique trying to convince our Shark Girl to kind of come over to their side, but then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I don't really think this is such a great idea, and she goes all sharky on Mystique, and this, of course, this brings a new student to the Jean Grey Institute. But on the flip side of that, we have another New Mutant that is being recruited by the Hellfire Club. And these kind of almost kind of evil versions of the X-Men kind of standing behind Kate Kilgore. And to me, this was like, yeah, I actually really dig that part of it, because it does mirror back to, kind of the, the Claremont Byrne years where, the Hellfire Club was actively, where they first kind of came into play during those years, and they were actively trying to recruit mutants such as Kitty Pryde. Of course, that was her first appearance. So bringing that kind of almost full circle, if you will, I thought was a really nice touch. However, the art on this issue, I can't remember, Steve Sanders, who did the art on this. It's pretty good. It's very Howard Chaykin-y, and that's not a bad thing, but it is, like I said, it's very heavily inked. So there are some very, almost blotchy lines. And because it's not Howard Chaykin, it looks a little off. I know that Bradshaw is going to be back next issue. Yes, because Bradshaw is just awesome. But this whole issue just was not great. It was, because we've had a run of some really awesome issues of Wolverine and the X-Men lately. And unfortunately, this issue, I wanted more of the school happenings to happen. I wanted more, maybe finding out what's going on with Brew. Obviously, we know he's still critically injured. But I wanted to know more what's going on with him. Is he going to live? Is he going to die? Don't fucking kill him, Jason Aaron, because I have your address and I will come for you. No. Because that's just, I hate when people say that kind of shit, unless they're saying it in jest. But really what we have here is, we still have the Frankenstein circus coming to town next issue. I'm really looking forward to that. But like I said, this issue just didn't work as well as I would have liked it to. So 3.5 out of 5 for this issue of Wolverine and the X-Men. It's solid, but it's, again, it's not up to Aaron's, what we know that he can do with this book. So there's that. So let's just move along. New Avengers number 33. And this has been kind of, because we did just get we got issue 32 just last week, and this is coming out pretty frequently because Bendis is using different artists for each issue of this particular run, this End Times run, in which, obviously we know that his New Avengers is coming to an end, and that Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers will be beginning relatively soon. So, the previous couple issues we've had Michael Gaydos, his Alias partner, and last issue we had Carlos Pacheco. In this issue we have Michael Oeming, or Emming, however you pronounce this dude's name, his Powers partner. And he's come to draw the New Avengers, and what we have here is we are given more kind of evil possessions to than you can shake a stick at in this particular issue, because we get kind of the lead into the finale of the previous issue, where Doctor Strange does come. He sees Damon Hellstrom's dead body. We have and then we have Maria Hill and a couple of other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who have come to arrest him for not only Hellstrom's murder, but also the murder of Victoria Hand, who is indeed very dead. And of course, this is all the doing of Daniel Drum, brother to Jericho Drum. This is kind of almost feeling like the old Grim Reaper, with kind of the brother blaming the Avengers for his brother's death, because Jericho Drum did save the Avengers' asses recently, and of course Daniel Drum exists solely on the spiritual plane, so he can move to whoever he wants to, and we have then we go back to the mansion, in which everybody's kind of debating what to do. Captain Marvel is leading Luke and Jessica out of the building through some old Quinjet tunnels, where they can get away from the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and the detectives that have surrounded the mansion, because they believe that they've caused this this federal agent to just blow his head off. Nobody's talking, and then the inside, of course, everybody is talking. We have everybody's trying to make their case for what exactly they should do next, and we have this amazing moment with Strange, and and then we bounce back to the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and Strange and Maria Hill, and then as he's speaking to Daniel Drum, because he just Strange just knows that the dude is there, and on this one page we get this great moment where we see Maria Hill is confronting Strange, talking about how he's just gone all cuckoo for Lucky Charms, but I thought was just kind of a funny little moment there, because obviously we know what she's talking about, and that she's kind of intentional. I don't know if kind of intentionally screwing it up. That it's just meant to be funny, because Maria Hill can be really funny, and really cool, and also very much of a hard ass. And he firmly believes that she has that Strange has firmly believed that Drum has somehow found his way into her. But of course that's not the case, because right below on that same page, we have Maria Hill is outside the mansion. What the hell is going on? Then all of a sudden, one of the SHIELD agents that Strange is confronting turns his gun on Hill, bang, right in the back of the head. And, you know, Strange does his thing. He forces Drum out, and and we see Maria Hill kind of lying on the ground, and we have this reaction from Maria Hill in front of the mansion, kind of in pain, because that was her life model decoy that she sent after Strange. So it was a really cool twist that they did there, because it was like, what the fuck is going on? You know, how did this happen? How could this be happening? And it was a really neat moment. And we have, you know, inside, like I said, it's kind of all coming to a head. You know, Spider-Man wants to run. You know, of course, Daredevil, being the attorney, you know, says, well, that's just going to make you look more guilty. You know, Iron Fist wants to take responsibility for this. He wants to get out there, try to put a stop to this. And then Strange kind of, you know, is communicating with Hill, basically saying, you know, whatever you do, do not call in the other Avengers. Don't call in anybody like the Hulk or Wolverine or Thor, you know, because this guy can travel between bodies. He can get anybody that he wants. And she kind of looks up and she's like, oh shit, because, you know, she already has called in Captain America and the other Avengers. So we have Thor, we have Captain America, we have Spider-Woman, we have Hawkeye, we have you know, Red Hulk, and you know, they are coming to try and find out what's going on. And then all of a sudden, here comes Drum, and he is just bouncing back and forth. And you know, meanwhile, you know, Cage and Jessica have gotten away, but Cage he can't help himself. He's got to go back for his friends. Despite his best intentions, he still has to go back and help his friends. And then, but all this, you know, all this kind of fighting, you know, kind of hero fighting hero, but possessed by Daniel Drum. Here comes Strange, and he makes the declaration: sorcerer versus sorcerer to the death. And so it's like, oh, this feels good. This makes my insides tingle, because I love Doctor Strange, and I love him when he's really well written, and I love him when he is kind of a lead character, which he's very much so in this particular arc, because it is all about not him, but it's his field of expertise. So, you know, he's the only one that can get it done, really. And you know, we have this, you know, this great art by Emming. Just, I mean, it's so good. And you know, again, Bendis writing the hell out of the issue. You know, very much, you know, getting the voices, getting the characters right. I mean, it's a very hard thing for a writer to do, to juggle all of these various voices. But on New Avengers, he just seems to do it better than just about anywhere else he can. Because there's a lot of characters in this book, and they're all pretty iconic. So, I mean, it's kind of, I guess you might say it might be easier to otherwise get their voices because they are so iconic. But let's really face it, it is, you know, it is so well done that it's just really easy to attach to. So this was, again, a pretty easy 4.5 out of 5 for me for New Avengers number 33. This book, if you're not reading it and you're into kind of the group book, this is absolutely the group book that I would recommend that Marvel is doing right now. So as far as like the big team book. I'm sure that I'm very much looking forward to what's going to be going on with the Avengers, what's going to be going on with, you know, and New Avengers and Secret Avengers once that, respectively, Jonathan Hickman and Nick Spencer get to work on them. So, so now we're moving on to another version of the Avengers, but it's the Ultimates. Ultimates number 18. So here we have kind of the finale, the climax, if you will, of United We Stand. And we have this opening in which, you know, Captain America has written this speech about how they kind of failed to stop Hydra from moving into Casper, Wyoming, and that all this bad stuff happened. And then Tony, you know, kind of perks up and is like, "Hey, it's a good thing you don't have to read that speech." He goes, "Hey, we won," and you know, and everything's great. And there's kind of a ticker tape parade in New York City for the Ultimates, and then we kind of move on into the future where Hydra is still very much operating, and they're kind of operating in sleeper cells. And all of a sudden, you know, Captain America, since he is president, he starts enforcing martial law, and even worse things than winning this battle start to happen. And then we see Peter Parker as Spider-Man, and we see Cap saying, "This is not the world that I wanted for you, Peter." And he kind of slams his shield down on his desk in the Oval Office. Then boom, it's a dream. And this dream, of course, is being influenced by Modai's mind gem, and we still have Thor very much under the influence of the mind gem, and he is trying to really hammer away at Cap right now. He's trying to basically smash the President of the United States into a nice goopy pulp. But the Ultimates, they don't go down so easy, even though it looks like the tide is definitely turned in Modai and Hydra's favor. Because we've got this whole big this whole big battle sequence going on around them. The Minnetonka helicarrier is falling out of the sky. It could if it lands on any city, it could blow up and could destroy everything for like miles around, because of the vibranium that it's powered on. But Cap, he's able to get through to Thor, the brainwashed Thor, for just long enough to get his shield back and shatter the mind gem, the cosmic cube, whatever you want to call it. And of course this ends up releasing all of the people who are being mind controlled, like Cassie Lang, and like a lot of the members of Hydra that were there, that all of a sudden started to participate for really no reason that they discover. And the fight starts getting taken back to Hydra and to Modai. So, spoiler alert, the good guys win. And they win at a cost. A very personal cost for, of course, one of these Ultimates. And something that's going to be pretty hard for that guy to live down. But strangely missing Spider-Man, because we did see him before, but we're going to be getting to that because there is one chapter left, and that, of course, is the next issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. So where it goes from here, of course, everything is looking a lot rosier, but there's definitely some threats on the horizon. And whether or not that has to do with Project Pegasus and what exactly that threat might mean and what it might actually be, I'm very curious to find out. I will say that there were some really nice moments in this book as far as having kind of a big battle sequence, with Falcon and Sue Storm and Iron Man and and Hawkeye and Black Widow and and Cap and everything. It was just and Spider-Woman. It was just there's some pages that were just really lovely done by Luke Ross here in this issue. But Sam Humphries again seems to he's definitely seeming to find his footing without Jonathan Hickman. Again, it's not so much about the big ideas anymore, which is sometimes it's a bit of a disappointment, because not that it's dumbed itself down, because it's still written very well, but the fact that some of those ideas don't really seem to exist without Hickman that it's a bit of a loss, and it is felt. But like I said, I think Humphreys is definitely finding his footing with this series on his own. So this book, really good, very solid 4 out of 5 for Ultimates number 18. Really looking forward to where this book goes from here, now that this threat has been dealt with. So what I'm going to leave it off with tonight, my final review of this evening, will not be a book of the week, but will just be kind of a lead-in to where we're going to go from here, because we're going to start next time by examining the independents, but I want to start with what is arguably, well, not really arguably, it is definitely one of the major independent releases of this week, and that is The Boys number 72. So whoever pointed out to me that, yes, you were right, number 71 was not the final issue, even though it felt like a final issue, and in retrospect, probably should have been. Because what we have here in this issue, in the final issue of The Boys, with Derek Robinson on art again, taking over for Russ Braun, is that we have Huey. It's 6 months after the events of issue 71 with the death of Billy. And we have Huey has definitely come into his own. The Brooklyn Bridge has been successfully rebuilt. It's no longer just, this wreckage. It is now not only a functional bridge, but it's a monument, of course, to what happened in this universe's 9/11. So everything's kind of coming up rosy here. Everything seems right with the world. Of course, we have Huey's kind of final confrontation, verbal confrontation, and kind of power play against kind of our nameless executive over at what is now just American Consolidated as opposed to Vought Consolidated. As this guy basically explains, it's just basically rebranding. Can't be Vought Consolidated anymore because of what happened, so we're just going to be American Consolidated, or Vought American Consolidated. And Huey basically reveals, that he's got, some compound V that actually has trace amounts of C4, and that if he wanted to, he could kill every soup on the planet. So basically he's warning the executive to never try to sell any soups to the military, because he knows that this is all about the money to these guys. No matter who gets hurt, no matter what the product is, and basically, what he's going to do. He's going to rebuild the Flatiron building that they're of course that they were headquartered in, and they're going to foot the bill for whatever needs to be done in the future for Huey's endeavors into this new area. And in the meantime, we have Susan Rayner is running for Senate in New York, and in the midst of one of her stump speeches, she all of a sudden the audio seems to be hacked or something to that effect, in which she's basically it is her. Kind of a tape of one of her old, one of her old sexcapade episodes with Billy, and where she's screaming, what a whore she is, and just a filthy pig, and that she is, and and there's even a biplane that's flying overhead with the streamer that says Susan Rayner is a whore, and it all actually turns out to be the handiwork of Monkey. So that brings that story to a close, and her career to a close. and we meet potentially a new group of superheroes in which, American Consolidated is presenting them as basically it's like it's a conformity of superheroes, and basically what of soups. They're all dressed in white, in all white uniforms. There's no differentiating one between, one from the other, except that he does recognize that some of them are, like that one has an erection, that one's definitely the Hood, and it's like, so, he's got a batch of bad product. And this, of course, this is kind of a crumbling moment for him. And then, of course, we have the final happy ending for Huey and Annie January, where they're going to make a go of it. They're going to, happily have their, their love life, their love continue, and it's what I was hoping for this issue. Now, I hearkened back in this issue while I was reading it to, of course, the finale of Preacher, because the finale of Preacher has some moments that I had some problems with, but it also had this huge moment which kind of made all of kind of the lesser feelings that I had about the issue go away, which, of course, those of you who have not read it, I will not spoil it, because if you haven't read Preacher, you are missing the fuck out. But anyway, there was a moment in that even if it hadn't been still already a pretty good issue, still would have made it pretty, it would have made it pretty fucking great. And there's no moment like that in here. It's just all kind of sunshine and roses. The bad guys kind of get what's coming to them, or not the bad guys, but the bad people kind of get what's coming to them. Huey gets kind of all of his dreams come true. The student has kind of become the master. He's definitely having his, kind of Billy moments there. So it all feels good. And this is not, it was a little too saccharine for my taste. It was a little too sweet. I wanted this to be, because one of the great things about the final issue of Preacher is that it was very bittersweet. You were saying goodbye to these characters that you followed for a long time, and you loved them, you cared about these characters. And this just felt like, okay, they're done. They've wrapped up every loose end, kind of. Everybody kind of gets what's coming to them in the end. And it was just way, way too pat of a final issue for someone like Garth Ennis. But I think that once we got to the Bloody Doors Off, the series was essentially kind of lost. I think that direction, I think that Ennis just felt like, okay, we need to end this. It's time to end this now. Because it's not going to get any better than, Over the Hills with the Swords of a Thousand Men. It's not going to get any better than Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker. So let's let it go. Let it go to history. And like I said, it's designed to be, I think, too much of a feel-good issue for this type of series. But it's still the fact that, yes, it is wrapped up. It does kind of make you feel good. And Robertson's art looks darn nice. You're kind of glad for Huey, that he seems to get everything that he deserved, after kind of all of the abuse that he's taken over the course of this series. It made you feel good, but it did not make you feel like, well, I've just lost a really good comic. It's basically just like, okay, well, everything's done, everything's wrapped up. There's nowhere to go from here. There's nowhere to think from here. That's where it goes wrong. There's no place where these characters can travel from here other than just kind of, more of a kind of dull life. I didn't see that for Jesse or for Tulip or for anybody at the end of Preacher. I didn't see that in a lot of the great finales of great comic books. But of course, The Boys has run very hot and cold over the years. And this was, I think, just unfortunate. I think it was not a good issue in the sense that of what a finale should be. It's a good issue, but it's not a good finale. So 3 out of 5 for The Boys number 72. And actually glad it's over, because that way I don't have to watch it kind of spill further downhill from here. So that's it for tonight. Tomorrow night we're going to get more into obviously more of the independents, and then of course on to DC, and then of course on to my picks of the week. So keep the dial here. Of course, this is your first time here. Please subscribe. Please comment. Thumb it up. Thumb it down. Whatever you need to do. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what your thoughts are. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what how you reacted to some of these books. Does any of what I talked about, does it, do you feel this way about this book? Back and forth, give and take, man. That's what I'm all about. Moving, always moving. So that's it for tonight, for the Shadow Gallery, for this first part of this week's New Comics, bitches! So, I will say good night to you. And again, thank you for watching. So this is James Donnelly from the Shadow Gallery saying goodnight and reminding you, as always, to stay in the shadows.